There you go.
So much fun. We've been doing this all week long.
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Tina Dockin with Tina Dockin Unleashed, the star of the show, Gabby. Well, she is taking a break from duck hunting this morning. She is currently in the kennel, and it gives me an opportunity to interview Callie Parmley from Gun Dog Magazine. And Callie has dogs. She's a DIY woman, so she likes to do everything herself. But I kind of want to dig into how you got your dogs and what you did to prepare and the ongoing challenges or fun stuff that you do to get ready to own a dog and to own a gun dog.
Well, my first dog, Lincoln, is a Labrador, and I was totally unprepared when I first got him. Well, I should say unprepared for hunting. I was not a hunter at the time that I actually got Lincoln. I got him just as a house dog, and I was coming into the hunting world, and I was really getting into it. And one day, I had some friends invite me a field, and we took Lincoln. They told me to bring Lincoln, and I was hesitant at first. And I said, no, I don't. He's never smelled a bird. And I took him anyways, and it was all natural for him. He flushed 3 pheasants and retrieved them all in that same day. And so I kind of knew at that point something clicked with me like, wow, that's really cool. And he clearly has a natural ability. I need to train him. And so I watched YouTube videos. I read books. I'm sure I picked up a Dawkins book somewhere along the way. And I trained him to hunt birds. Yeah, I trained him to hunt birds with me. And so I really credit Lincoln with making me an upland hunter because his drive and passion for the pursuit is what really drove me to do it. And so Lincoln's 9 now, and that happened when he was 2. So we've been hunting upland birds for a really long time together. And as Lincoln got older, I realized he was slowing down, and I needed another gun dog to help him in the field. And so I had taken over Gun Dog a couple years ago, and I had decided I really wanted.
As the editor, sorry.
I'm the editor-in-chief of Gun Dog Magazine, and so I decided I wanted to have best of both worlds. I wanted a flusher and I wanted a pointer. And my grandpa had raised and trained English setters, so I had grown up around them and I knew the breed. And I decided to kind of pay homage to him. I wanted the English setter. And so I had never trained a pointing breed before, and this time I felt like I was a little more prepared, you know, as in knowing what was needed and the time and the dedication needed to train a bird dog. And so, but I was very fortunate, and I have a lot of trainers who are willing to help me, like Tom and different people like Tom and Smedley out west where I live. And so I had the basic idea of how to train Jones, but of course I had all kinds of questions, and I had people guiding me and helping me, and took it one step at a time. And there were a lot of trial and errors. And honestly, I found that bird dogs, their natural inclination is they will figure it out. You just have to help guide them a little bit.
Sure. What were your biggest challenges? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. Were you hunting birds? Did you ever shoot a bird before Lincoln? Go into that a little bit.
Honestly, no. I mean, a little bit.
Okay.
I had hunted a few game farms in Ohio, so I had done that just a little bit, but no. My first real hunt was actually a turkey hunt. And I got real into, I had a really super fun turkey hunt with a friend, and that really got me into hunting. And then from there, I actually started big game hunting before I started bird hunting. I was hired as the associate manager of Peterson's Hunting Magazine, and I had gotten into DIY backpack hunting. I was super into that. And then when I figured out that Lincoln was a hunter, that really kind of was a perfect segue into me becoming a bird hunter, because I could combine my love for dogs and hiking and hunting in the outdoors and now pursue upland birds. And now it's kind of a part of me, part of my passion, and my love for everything outdoors.
So your dog, like similar to me, your dog led you into hunting world.
100%.
Basically.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Into the bird world. I forever will credit Lincoln with making me a bird hunter.
Yeah, and me, Samantha, too.
Absolutely.
Talk about what should a person who's going to buy a gun dog for the first time, what are the, not necessarily top 3, but what are the most important things that they need to do in order to prepare for getting that gun dog home?
Honestly, before I got a dog, before I even got Lincoln, I had actually trained a service dog in college, so I knew obedience, and I knew I wanted a very well-trained dog. And I spent hours before I even picked up my dog, before I even picked up Jones, hours just reading and watching and talking to people to prepare, because I knew the first 12 weeks of a dog's life is so essential to get it right, or you're going to have problems down the road. And so my best advice was, it is you as their handler to be responsible and do your research and come in prepared, because you are going to guide that dog through its life and you are molding it from the beginning. So I spent hours on Google and YouTube and just reading everything that I could to figure out what's step one when I bring that dog home.
So what were the biggest challenges, the difference in challenges between a Labrador and a pointer?
Well, and maybe I had kind of forgotten, because I had Lincoln he was probably 6.5 or 7 when I brought Jones home. So you kind of forget how hard the puppy stage is.
You do. You forget all things you're supposed to do.
Honestly, it was, and I'll be completely honest. I had a lot of reservations bringing home a second dog, because I'm like, Lincoln is my true love. He's my first love. I don't want him to think that I'm replacing him. I was super worried about that. And the first night I brought home Jones, my setter, Lincoln, Lincoln's an 8-year-old dog. They don't love puppies in their face. And of course, puppies want to be in their face. And so I remember he snapped at little Jones. And of course, Jones is, arr, 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 and I'm like, oh my God, Lincoln hates me. Like, he's so mad. He's never going to forgive me. And I just started crying. And honestly, I was probably stressed because I had driven literally 24 hours to get Jones, and then was just hopping on the road and coming back. And so I was probably sleep deprived and whatever. But it was a hard transition going from an 8-year-old dog who basically speaks English to a puppy who won't focus on anything, just wants to play, is up at 4 a.m., you're trying to work and he's whining to go outside, So there was a huge transitional period there, but I would say that the hardest thing to get prepared for him was to remember that it takes repetition. They will get it. They will learn. It just takes time and patience. And that's what I tell people when they get so frustrated with training their little dogs. I'm like, repetition and consistency is everything. If you get mad after one time and he doesn't do it, you'll never be able to train a dog, because it's just, they will understand as soon as it is consistent. And I just tell people, you have to have patience.
Or just take a break for a little bit. If you're getting frustrated, you don't want them to feel that.
Absolutely.
And they do. They feel everything.
Feel it and could just be consistent. And with puppies, you take 10 minutes every couple hours, because they're children. They don't have a attention span like an adult does. So I always tell people, if you are consistent and you are a leader for that dog, they will listen to you. It's just going to take consistency.
Right. And obviously Jones training and pointing. Do you think it was harder training a pointing dog versus a lab?
I wouldn't say harder. I would say that I had a learning curve because I was used to training a Labrador. Okay. I had to figure out the difference. I felt like it took a little bit more equipment, and maybe and I say that now hesitantly, because now that I'm really into the training world, I do know that I didn't use all the equipment with Lincoln, because I was new to training that is used now. Like, I didn't use launchers with him. I didn't, and I know now that you can. I felt like there's just a little bit of learning curve, because I was teaching Lincoln to flush and to find and retrieve.
Sure. Where
I'm trying to bring out the point and hold in this pointing dog. And I had to figure out the ways to do that, because, he was young and it took a while for him to find his point.
Okay.
And now looking back, there are things that I would do differently with Jones.
Sure.
I would get him on birds way earlier. I was scared. He'd be scared of birds if I put him flapping in his face.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, so there were things that I would do with my next pointing dog that I would do a little bit differently, that I know it's okay to do now. I just felt like I had a little bit more of a learning curve with Jones. Is it necessarily different? Yeah, it's different, but I wouldn't say it's more or less on either side. No.
What do you do having a flushing and a pointing dog? You hunt them together. Explain how you went through that transition, and if you do that, or how important it is for a young dog to get hunted by themselves.
Sure. Yeah, so the ultimate goal, of course, was to hunt Jones and Lincoln together eventually, but Lincoln's is kind of old now, so his time of field is limited. But that was the ultimate goal. But in the beginning, no, you cannot hunt them together, because the puppy, and I 100% believe, and now that I've seen it, a puppy will follow in the footsteps of the older dog.
Sure.
And I say that because, Jones isn't necessarily a natural retriever, but he retrieves. And I know for sure he gets that from Lincoln because he watched Lincoln as a puppy and he wanted to do what Lincoln was doing. So the goal was to hunt them together, but I couldn't do it in the beginning because while Lincoln's flushing, Jones wants to do what Lincoln is doing.
Sure.
And so it's almost a competitive nature. So he would break point to flush, and that's not what Jones is supposed to do. He's supposed to point. So no, I could not hunt them together. But now Jones is he turned 2 in June, and it's October now. So I actually had kind of a little bit of a breakthrough with you and I and our friend Natalie here while we were hunting. Traditionally, I try to keep Jones away from the flushers because I don't want him to flush. And this week, actually, he was hunting with his buddy Hatchet, who is a lab, and they were both on the same bird. I could tell.
Okay.
We had come together in the field by accident, and they were both chasing the same running rooster. And I watched Jones point, and he held point while Hatchet was digging in the brush in front of him.
Yep.
And then he'd redirect, and he'd point, and he'd hold while Hatchet was digging in front of him. That was actually a big breakthrough, and I was happy to see that.
That he held the point.
That he held the point. That he understood. Hey, he's not competing with me. He's helping me.
Okay.
I'm telling him the bird somewhere up here. We're both on the same bird. Now, will I continue to do that? Probably not right now.
Probably because they knew each other.
They knew each other, and that was the first. That was really cool to see. And it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, he's fine now.
Right.
He can hunt with a flusher. I will still try to keep him solo. Right. But it was cool for me to see that he might be on his way to hunting with a flushing dog.
Well, and we've been hunting out here, but we've been trying to keep our labs away from Jones, so we've been separating you a little bit away from us so he had more range.
Exactly. And because they were very different hunting. It was cool to see, and that's great that he's on his way, but he's still really young, and so I don't want any accidents to happen or to him to get too competitive and break his point, because his job is to hold his point until a person goes in front of him and kicks up the bird.
And do you wait till the gunshot? Is he supposed to hold his point through the gunshot too as well?
So that's funny. That's funny that yes, I'm. Some people, if you are a field trialer, yes, he is. He is supposed to be steady to shot and bird drop.
Okay.
Some hunters don't like their dogs to be steady to shot because, and the perfect example is on roosters. You hit a rooster, hits the ground, and starts running most of the time.
Sure.
So some people want their dog to, as soon as the shot goes, mark that bird and be on it. Okay. And so I kind of debate a little bit what I want to do, because now after this week where I lost a running rooster, because Jones hesitated a little bit, and to me, I kind of don't want him to be steady to shot because of that. I want him to be on the bird and mark it, because as we all know, we're in the uplands and it's tall cheatgrass, or you're in the it's hard for you to find the bird.
Right.
So you're depending on your dog to kind of at least get over in the area.
Right.
You can mark it with your eyes as much as you can.
Sure.
As much
well,
you can.
Once they start running,
you can mark it and you get over and you're like, well, I thought it landed here,
Yeah.
So, but I do want him to be steady. I'm working on the woe command with him right now, because as much as people will say, using a wing and a string, have you heard of that tactic where they're like, well, it's kind of stupid to use a wing and a string because they don't see birds, and you're teaching them to sight point the wing instead of smell them. You're naive to think if a dog doesn't see a bird in the uplands. They do see them sometimes.
Correct.
They absolutely see them. And a dog's natural inclination is to pounce or to chase, right?
Right.
He's a natural predator. So I am working on the woe command with him right now, because when he sees a bird, he wants to break his point and chase.
Okay.
So I'm working on the woe command so that he knows, hey, I can still get over to that bird even if you see it. So don't move your feet. You are absolutely not supposed to move your feet. And that's what I'm working on the woe command with him with. So even this week, you saw it this week with, he pointed a rooster, and that rooster moved on him, and he moved a foot because he could see it.
He could see it. Sure.
And he moved a foot and it flushed. So it's that right there is a perfect example of whoa. When you see or smell a bird, doesn't matter, you are not to move your feet.
Okay.
Unless, of course, you smell it and realize it's ran on you and you need to redirect yourself, which they will just naturally do that. Dogs will.
So obviously I'm not a dog trainer, and I love hunting over pointers, and I've hunted over German Shorthairs, English pointers, Jones, and one thing I've seen in the field when I've been hunting pointers is they're on point, and then they'll walk up to them and touch them. Would that be something that you could teach them to go, okay, I'm going to touch you now, go trail that bird, go trail that rooster that just ran off. Is that something that
Yeah, so that's funny
can be
that
taught?
yeah, that's something like you see them touch them to release them, or you
Yes.
see them just yeah. Okay, so Joan, that is so when I work with my buddy Talmadge, he is a great trainer out in Utah. He told me you need to have a release command for your pointer because sometimes they may catch a whiff of a bird and it's clear there's not a bird there. It may have been
Okay.
old scent, the bird may
Sure,
be running.
sure.
So you need to be able to tell that dog that it's okay to move.
Okay.
And so taught to me by Talmadge, a simple tap on the back of his head where I say, okay. And he will know that it's okay to move and redirect himself.
Okay.
So yes, you've probably seen other trainers do that where it's like, hey, I've walked in front of you and there's no bird here. I know you think there's one here, but it's probably ran on you. So it's okay to move and go and hunt.
And that's redirection. But is there a way to teach them to go, okay, now go trail that bird or if after you shoot it?
Oh, okay.
Yes,
like
yes,
a shot bird.
yeah.
I don't know. I haven't gotten like Tom, we were having this conversation. Tom was saying yesterday, Labradors know to scent trail a bird.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that
That'd be interesting.
because my breeder Jerry for Northwoods Bird Dogs. When I first got Jones, I said I would like my setter to retrieve as well.
Sure.
And he said to me, he said, well, they're bred to point, so you're going to either get a dog who's really good at pointing or really good at retrieving. You have to decide. And so he wasn't saying he can't retrieve. He was just saying he's going to be better at pointing than he is at retrieving. And he's not wrong. Jones, I 100% believe Jones retrieves because of Lincoln. Because I throw Lincoln his dummy, and when Jones is little, he'd be like, well, I want to play with that thing. And he started, I taught Jones when he was little. You know how you do retrieving drills with young Labradors. Yes. I did that with Jones when he was little.
Yep.
So Jones will not retrieve to hand like Lincoln will, but he'll bring it halfway back, and that's fine with me.
Right. Right.
But is he going? I have not taught like a hunt dead command to him. No.
Okay.
I have not. If I did, I would believe that he would.
Yeah. Enough training.
And you can teach a dog anything.
Anything.
But
right.
Let's just say I was so focused on his main job.
Sure.
That I did not teach him hunt dead yet.
Yeah.
But he does mark the bird. He's actually really good at marking birds that I shoot and go over and get in. I've watched him retrieve. I shot a bird and it fell over a ridge, and I watched him disappear over the ridge and come back up with the bird in his mouth.
Okay.
So he has a natural inclination to retrieve.
Sure.
But he doesn't understand running roosters. Yesterday I shot a bird and it went down. We thought it went down hard, and he ran right over to where it landed, and I saw his nose on the ground like he was trying to pick it up, and then he popped his head up and he was like looking like this, and I'm like, that bird's running on him, and he was confused.
He was trying to figure out the whole rooster game. Why isn't it here?
Yeah,
you just shot it.
Well, I think he got over to it, and I don't think it was there, and then he looked up and he saw it running. I think that's what happened. I think this happened. And it's kind of funny to me because he's chased down running chucker and huns before.
He has. So he knows.
So I don't know if it's just a larger bird and it surprised him. I don't know. But, I think, and they move so fast. Holy moly, they move. Normally when you shoot a chucker or a hun and it's wounded, it's not going to run as fast as a rooster does. Right, it'll flop around in the close brush and stuff, but roosters just like beeline.
They are gone. They're gone. Yeah. They're hard to bring down.
They really are. People think it's easy, and they're not.
So anything else that you can give our audience, any advice about buying a pointer, buying a Labrador, things to prepare for? You must do this. Anything that pops up into your brain.
I think it's important to do your research and decide what breed is best for you.
Yeah,
they're very different. They do two very different jobs. One may be more suited for a family style than the other, even though setters have a great off switch and are great family dogs, and so are labs. I just think you have to decide what type of hunting you want to do. If you're looking for a dog who works close and quarters to you and flushes and retrieves birds, then you want to go the Labrador side of things. If you want a dog who's going to range out a little bit farther on the prairies and point birds for you and maybe retrieve, then you need to go with a pointing breed. Mm-hmm. Or you can go a versatile breed, which does a little bit of both. But do your research on the dog, the breed, their temperament, how they are around family and kids and other dogs is super important, and then make your decision. It's a 10, 15-year decision. So. Oh
yeah, absolutely. Now, you have two dogs. Out of curiosity, what would you recommend if somebody wanted to get a second dog? How far apart would you recommend that they get their dog?
I waited until Lincoln was. pretty sure I made the decision to get another dog when Lincoln was 5,
Okay.
and then picked up and then of course it took a year, for I got a good breeder and good breeding, and took another year and a half. So I think that depends.
Yeah, it can vary. I mean,
Because-
we're always Tom always says wait till they're 8 so you have a couple years to develop the puppy, but
Absolutely.
I waited till Sassy was 10 and
Yeah,
a half.
absolutely.
I just procrastinated because she was hunting so well, and you feel guilty
You
when
feel
you have
guilty.
2 dogs.
Honestly, it depends. I found with Lincoln, he really did not come out of his puppy stage or hyperness until he was 3.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you want to get another dog while you got a dog who's still very much in training, I mean, more power to you, but I would wait a few years. I
Right.
would wait until you really see your older dog start to slow down, because you really want a dog where they can, the
Yeah.
older dog can help train the younger one, but also remember you got at least 2 years
of hunting.
2 years before that, 2 or 3 years before that dog is really understanding hunting. And I think that's hard for people to understand too, me included. When I got Jones, I'm thinking, oh, we're going to be hunting that first season, Yeah.
Right. That's a good point.
We were
That's a good
hunting.
point. Yeah, because this is Gabby's first year hunting, and she's just over a year. First duck hunting year this year, and first pheasant hunting. She hasn't been out pheasant hunting with us because she hasn't had the experience yet.
Yep.
So we want to make sure when she has that first experience that it's successful,
Oh, yeah.
and that nobody else is around, no other dog is around. I was going to ask a question about that whole dog thing, but I forgot already. But regardless, and then we even did a senior citizen hunt too with our older dogs, just to give them that hunt. But that's important to know that if you're going to want to hunt your dogs, have that time frame where, like for me, I waited till Sassy was 10 because I knew she was hunting so well. Because you do feel guilty leaving the other dog at home. I mean,
bad.
it's horrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's hard. It's really hard. Luckily, Lincoln has been really stoic about it, and he understands. But you got to give them their time too. But you really need to recognize that your young puppy is not going to be the hunter that it can be until at least 2 or 3 years of age.
Oh,
And even then, you still have multiple years of training to go. So make that decision based on, how well your older dog's doing at the time.
And speaking of hunting, we are on our way to hunt over Jones, and we're going to be hunting. I'll let you talk about it.
Sharp-tails. We're going to go hunt sharp-tails, which we're here in South Dakota. Jones notoriously has had trouble with sharp-tails. He's only 2, so I was told that young dogs tend to have trouble with them because of scenting. They're never in really big coveys. They can be 1s and 2s. And so he actually had a breakthrough a couple weeks ago. I was in Idaho hunting, and the perfect example of the more birds you put your dog on, he's going to figure it out. And this is a perfect example. He had been on Sharpies the year before when he was just a puppy. And then I go to Idaho. First contact, he runs through him, acts like he doesn't smell him. Second contact, he runs through him, acts like he doesn't smell him. Third contact, he points, but his tail's flagging, so he's not really sure. He recognized, hey, I smell that smell again. I remember it was a bird. So they flushed. So I didn't point him. I didn't shoot him because he was flagging a little bit. Fourth contact, he slammed on point. Slammed on point like he had been doing it forever, and I was able to shoot his first sharp tail over him.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
it's really cool to see them really connect the dots, especially in the field.
Yes.
And the more birds you get them on, the faster they're going to connect those dots. So we'll see how he does today. He's really tired from pheasant hunting, and we'll see if we even find any sharp tails, but we're at least going to go try.
Well,
So.
I'm excited to see him with the sharp tail because I got to see him point his first pheasant. You shoot the first pheasant for him.
Yeah, it was really
so
cool.
for me, creating memories is what it's all about with your dog.
It was cool.
And it's been fun sharing the field with you this last couple of days. So
Well,
thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Kelly.